Hello again, Monster Cutie fans. Monster Cutie! Alright, so we're gonna do more with the cuties here. The background's kind of losing some detail, but we'll worry about that later. I think when all is said and done, I'm going to do like a time-lapse video of all of these sessions, put them all into one, and like turn like 8-10 hours into 10 minutes or something like that. We'll see. Okay, so yeah, let's go back in and work on some more cutie stuff. Working on the overpaint layer. I checked the file size. It's not terribly big. It's I think it's like 91 megs, which isn't too big. So I'm not gonna collapse everything just yet. But I might get to the point after today's session where I want to collapse all the stuff into one, all the monster stuff into one layer, so it saves on file size. It's not so much an issue these days, but I remember when I was coloring comics and I was working in mostly CMYK because at the time, I mean, even a couple of years ago, color printers weren't that flexible in terms of what they could handle. So everything had to be in CYMK, and when you're working in CYMK, the file sizes jump tremendously. So it's huge. So you can start out with like, black and white line art that's maybe 2 or 3 megs. And by the end of like your flatting session, your file is already up to 50 megs. So I used to flatten things and import them into other files and do all sorts of memory saving tricks, and we don't really need to concentrate too much about that these days, which is nice because it means that the tools are getting out of the way of the artwork. It used to be that computers were slower. So I forgot to do my my special technique, so let me back up a little bit. Alright, so in order for me to prevent myself from painting outside the lines, I need to select the transparency of the color layer. And remember, this is the full outline. And if I want to hide the marching ants, I hit Apple H, or I think it's Control H on a PC. And now when I paint out here, I don't go outside the lines like I did that one time. So back to my point, as computers are getting faster, they're getting out of the way of your workflow. So you don't have to worry about things like size management and rendering time and speed and all that stuff. You can just crank open Photoshop and paint till the cows come home, or until people stop watching you paint. So that's one of the nice things about if you're just now exploring digital painting, that's one of the great things you have to look forward to. You don't have to worry about things that we used to do way back in the day. And it's funny because back in the day isn't so back in the day. I was coloring in like 2001, 2002, 2003 maybe. And that's not all that long ago. But the technology from then till now has just jumped ahead leaps and bounds. So I'm not so concerned about flatting things just yet. I might flat things just for simplicity's sake, because I'm not one of those guys who likes a lot of layers. There are some people I've seen who put a layer for every new shade or every little line or scratches and stuff like that, and I tend to just create a layer, see how it affects the layer below it, and then flatten it. Because I'm not interested in layer management. I'm interested in painting. So, but yeah, computers are wicked fast now. So there's no excuse. There's no excuse anymore for you to. There are very few barriers for you to get into digital painting. The only barriers are the excuses that you make up in your head. So don't make excuses. We at Monster Cutie do not believe in excuses. Yes, we do. I don't know if squids have nostrils. I guess it might make sense to take a look at a picture of a squid, because the hat monster, is sort of loosely based on a squid. I'm not sure I like the nose, the nostrils. The nostrils aren't doing it for me. Let's paint those out. But it should be some sort of surface here. Shall we brave the internet and take a look at some squids? Let's do it. All right. So here we go. While we wait for Firefox to do its thing, we'll continue to figure out what to do with this shape here. And there we go. So let's go Google image search, images, google.com, squid. And let's take a look at this cheesy diagram. Funnel, eye. There seems to be no nostril action. Let's check out what an octopus. That looks like a pretty cool illustration here. No, just some pattern thing going on there. All right, so we will not make a nose section for this guy. We'll just paint this down so that it's lumpy. Let's see what it looked like in the original sketch. It's got a kind of a beak thing going on, so we'll maintain that beakness. But we won't give it nostrils. The other nice thing about the internet is that we have Google image search. And that's something that when I was growing up I did not have. So most of the stuff that I learned how to draw was from pictures or just making it up. I totally believe in photo reference. I don't think that you should follow it by, I don't think you should strictly follow photo reference, but I believe that photo reference gives you some guidelines to work off of, a direction, and sometimes you need that if you're working semi-realistically or painting things and you want to see how light falls on an object, or how light interacts with, oops, what was that? Don't want to move. To prevent from moving, we'll lock, what is this? Lock position. That's what I want. Lock position. Yeah. So, you know, if you're painting something semi-realistically, or even if you're not, but you're creating shapes that have depth to it, you need to know how light interacts with objects and objects with color. And the best way to do that is to look at your surroundings and to look at photo references. So photos give you an excellent resource for figuring out how lighting interacts with stuff. And it's really important to really make your paintings pop and seem like they have a life to it. If you understand lighting, you know, your paintings become stronger, your illustration becomes stronger. And that goes for your three-dimensional work as well. If you're working in 3D, lighting is vital to making your images pop. And so photo reference is exceedingly helpful for that, because what better classroom than nature to learn all this stuff? You know, a lot of times you don't necessarily pay attention to lighting when you're walking around during the day. You're not looking. You don't notice how light plays with the little cracks in the sidewalk, or how it affects the temperature of shadows, or you know how Chrome works. Chrome is a it's easy to just put highlights on something and make it shiny, but how does Chrome really interact with the world around it? Well, it reflects everything. It's like 100% reflective. And so it's not just a white highlight here and there. If you're painting Chrome, you want to pick up a lot of the stuff that's around that's happening in the background of your image. So there are a whole lot of lessons that you can learn from real life. And if you don't walk around all day and just, stare at stuff with that in mind, photo reference is very helpful to remind you what you're missing. So I highly recommend. I live on Google image search these days. Filter off because I don't mind looking at naughty things. But yeah, I mean, that's a tremendous resource that I never had when I was growing up, and I never knew it was something that I was missing. And now that I have it, I rely on it a lot. And once you get an idea of how lighting works and how objects interact with light, then you can go off and do your own thing. But you need that base. You need to know that basic stuff. It's like learning scales for musical instruments. Scales are boring. It's the basic building block to everything that you're going to play. But you have to learn how they work. Even if you teach yourself how to play an instrument, at some point in your musical development, you're going to have to learn scales because you're going to have to figure out where the notes are placed and why they sound the way they do and how they relate to other notes on your instrument. So consider photo reference and looking at your environment and walking around during the day and just seeing how light plays around. Consider that your scales. This is building foundation for your work. So pay attention. Just get outside and pay attention. Artificial light is so horrible sometimes because it doesn't give you enough contrast. Like, different times a day have different types of light. Early morning might have, one temperature of light. Late afternoon has another temperature of light. And these are fun to play with, and if you see your surroundings in those different light settings and you see how the light plays and how it affects the colors and the hues, it's great. So get out there and experience the light. The light! Head towards the light. I don't know how good this microphone is, but the pitter patter of little feet is occurring outside my apartment door. Some kid running around going. But I guess it is Christmas Eve, so he might be getting some presents in anticipation of Christmas Eve, which is tomorrow. Or, well, I guess when I post this, I will be posting this on Christmas Eve, so it's today. So maybe the kid is anticipating Christmas Eve day or something. Whatever. There's a kid outside running around like a jerk. Now you notice that I'm not using a whole lot of photo reference when I build up my monster cuties because I have a general idea of what I want to do with them, but not really. I'm from the happy accident school of art, where sometimes you can't plan for stuff. Sometimes you just need to make it happen. So I am just making it happen. I'm seeing where these shapes take me. They take me to all sorts of interesting places. So I like the mixture of tones I'm getting here with between the purple and the blue and the browns and the oranges and stuff. I think it's a nice interplay because um, it gives some sense of um, what we call subsurface scattering. So if you hold up your hand towards the sun and you look in between your fingers, the webbing between your fingers, you'll notice that there's a healthy pink reddish glow to it. And what that is it's light and it's light bouncing around in your skin. It's bouncing around and it's reflecting all sorts of weird stuff like your blood and all that kind of stuff. Well, that is an effect known as subsurface scattering. And you hear it a lot when you talk about 3D rendering engines like what's the one in my Mental Ray, or what's the one that Pixar does? Anyway, it's a term that's used a lot when you're talking about 3D rendering because it's a fairly neat effect, and it brings out a lot of realism to your flesh tones. So you can simulate the effect of light bouncing around in your dermis or epidermis, bouncing around and reflecting, the colors from your blood and your veins and stuff, and that's subsurface scattering. So to kind of mock that in 2D, you can saturate your shadows a little bit because it turns out that subsurface scattering kind of gives your shadows a nice glow to them. So like in this section here, it almost looks as if there's light bouncing around in the surface of this guy's head. So that's a neat little effect that you can play with. It's definitely more impressive in 3D. But you can fake it in 2D. And it looks sweet if you do it correctly. Alright, I'm bumping the highlights on the nose because I want to round it out a little bit. It looks a little too flat for me right now. And maybe give a lump here in this section. There's a lot of subtle things going on here, so it doesn't look like it's making a big difference. And this is the stage of painting that I find that I have a lot of fun with, but I don't know, from an outside perspective, if you're watching this at home and you're seeing all these little things going on, it might be boring as hell. So I guess once I'm done with this entire series, I wanna get some feedback from people who are viewing it to see, whether or not you appreciate seeing these tedious detailing steps, or if you'd rather have a time lapse thing where I record a voiceover afterwards to explain what's going on instead of doing it on the fly like I am now. So I'm painting and talking at the same time. So I'm curious to see what folks respond to, because I've been getting some feedback on this stuff, but not terribly, not too much, and I guess that makes sense because I haven't asked for it. But if you have an opinion one way or the other, if you like seeing this tedious buildup, or if you'd rather see the end product and how I got there at the very end, with a quicker, time-lapse type presentation, give me an email. My email address is az, as in Z, M, news @gmail.com. And if you go azmnews@gmail.com. And if you go to the Monster Cutie site, my email's there, so you can just click on it and send me a message. But I'm interested to hear what you people say, because obviously some of you are watching this. I see the downloads. You people are downloading it. I don't know if you're putting it on mute and then turning on some hot, tasty jams, like I should be. Normally I'd be listening to some tasty jams. Alright, I'm lying. Normally I'd be listening to old-time radio. There's something about old-time radio that I just really enjoy. But it's the mystery stories and the science fiction. Whoops. Not the variety shows. I could care less for variety shows. Yeah, so if you have an opinion, send me an email and I will adjust accordingly. And if I don't hear from anybody, that indicates to me that you either don't care or you're fine with the way it is, which is also totally awesome. So either way. But yeah, this is I really like the color variation. This is something that I haven't done a lot in some of my previous paintings. So I think I'll keep trying to push this kind of color blocking. It's really nice. I like the interplay of the colors. You know, you can tell that the hat monster is a different type of monster, but it's still related to the guy he's sitting on top of. That's nice. So I got another comment on so when I post these, I send a message out on Twitter, and my Twitter updates my Facebook page. And I got another comment from one of my friends on Facebook saying that it's like Bob Ross. Except Bob Ross is wicked fast and wicked good, and I'm sure if he was painting monsters, he'd be done already. In the time that it's taken me to get to this point, he could have probably done 5 other monster portraits. Those happy little trees. So speed isn't necessarily important, but the faster you can work, the more you can get done, and the more clients you can get. So yeah, I think part of the problem is that I'm working out some of the kinks in my workflow, and unfortunately I'm subjecting you to that process through these casts. So bear with me a little bit. I know this must be tedious. Might be fun to invite another artist over so we can have a conversation about stuff while I paint, but the problem is I do these so late at night that I don't want somebody to come out here and have to drive all the way down just to talk about art on a podcast. There we go. That's looking a little bit more cutie. Oh, the silence. I'm trying to I'm trying to paint and think of something to say at the same time that you may find interesting. I suppose it's slightly arrogant of me to think that anything I have to say would be interesting to you. But I'm trying to, well, I mean, I guess I don't want to just explain all the brush strokes that I'm doing or my thinking behind it. Really, I'm not, I don't know how to explain it, but I'm not, I am, I mean, I'm consciously thinking about what I'm doing, but not really. I mean, I'm sort of going on automatic pilot where I just kind of swatch around the composition and find things to detail up and other things to just push back, and it's a very zen-like process because I mean you'd think that it's intentional and very directed, and everything that I'm doing has a purpose, and that's not necessarily the case. I mean, sure, I see this hard edge here, and I'm trying to tone it down to make it to round out the shape a little bit more, so it doesn't look like a corner. But I mean, that's not what I'm thinking. I'm, that's not what I'm. Well, okay, I am thinking that because I just said it, but that's not what's going on in my head right now. Right now, I'm just kind of swatching around and seeing what works, because um, I'm not working with a licensed property that has to look a certain way. I'm not working with a set character design that I've developed and that has to look a certain way. I'm just seeing what occurs here and just playing around and messing with shapes and screwing with colors and stuff like that. So it's kind of a very zen, like, it's a in the moment feeling, and it's difficult to describe. um, when you go there, you know what I'm talking about. But if you've never had that kind of experience, it's hard to relate to it. It's, um, I mean, certainly part of me is conscious of where this is going, but not really. And I find that at points during the artistic process of drawing or coloring or painting or inking or any of that, there's an aspect of it that's sort of just a grind where you just sort of sit down and just do it. You don't let anything seep into your head like, oh, well, if I turn the brush this way, I'll get this line, or if I etch this way with the pencil, I'll get this kind of line, or if I turn my paper this way, I can do this. I mean, that's not the kind of thing that goes through your head when you're doing this stuff. It's just kind of like automatic pilot while I'm drawing here and here and here and seeing how this works. So there's very little internal dialogue in my mind when I'm doing this kind of stuff. It just, I don't want to say automatic pilot because it makes it sound like it's robotic, but it's just kind of like going with the flow, feeling around, dorking around, seeing where you end up. Um, just letting go, not worrying about technique or the proper way to do things or the improper way to do things or the quickest way to do things. It's just kind of like um, just really letting go and seeing what happens. And I don't know if I'm describing that in a way that's comprehensible to somebody who hasn't experienced that kind of mental state when you're working. Part of you, I guess, part of me is indeed making conscious decisions, but I feel that most of me is just kind of like Durr, and turned off and just letting things go and letting it occur as it wants to. And that's kind of cool. I mean, you don't have to stress about art. You can just do it. And if you like what you see, maybe you can repeat that. So there's a lot of experimentation here and just seeing where things go. And you know, maybe that's why I listen to the old time radio, because it gives my mind something else to think about as I'm going on automatic pilot, or automatic art pilot. I should come up with a better description of what I'm trying to say here. But you just get to a point where you can kind of let go and let your natural instincts take over. It's a great feeling to have, because it gives you a measure of confidence in what you're working on. Not to say that like everything I'm doing is perfect. It's far from perfect. But it just feels like, you know, it feels like this is the way it's supposed to be. This is the way it goes. This is how it's this is the best way for it to happen. And you know, there's definitely a philosophical side to all of us hippy dippy artists, if you couldn't figure that out already. Do 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 do. Spending a lot of time with this elbow here. I don't know why. It just feels like the right thing to do right now. Oh, this is kind of a cool shape. I think I'll accentuate that a little bit. This little knot in here. That's pretty cool. Some kind of muscle thing. His other arm looks nothing like that arm. That's okay. Doesn't have to be symmetrical. I'm gonna zoom out a little bit and grab some of these greenish tones that I like so bad. Paint them up in here. So for a lot of the creases where there are folds of skin, I tend to draw in a pretty dark borderline there to indicate the wrinkle. And then around that wrinkle, I will paint in some dark areas and then some light areas to sort of to round it out, to give it the impression of a pinch at that point. So it's kind of like, it's not exactly coloring in the lines, it's coloring next to the lines. And then you got to figure out which direction you want the pinch to go, and sometimes you got to tone some of it back and round things out a little bit. But you know, I mean, you kind of experiment around, see what works, see what looks good to you. Sometimes it works better than others, sometimes it doesn't, but you know, you get the picture. It's all about the journey. A journey which you hope will result in something that looks like you can put it in your portfolio and get more work from. Please get me more work. Alright, let me reshape this a little bit. Give this arm some more oomph to it. More wrinkles, more wrinkles, more wrinkles. Alright, I have done nothing with the feet. And it looks like I've done nothing with the feet and the legs. So I need to do something with the legs. And what I think I'll do is I'll grab the shadow color down here and paint in some of this, some wrinkles down here and some folds. Make that shadow relate to the rest of the cutie. That looks stupid. Okay, we're gonna try something here. Cutie, 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 cutie. Right, let's see if we can further define some of these shapes down here so they're not just amorphous blobs. Alright, I'm going to deselect, and I'm going to turn this off, and I'm going to unlock this, and I'm going to cut this out. Because I do not like that. Turn off that overpainting and change this brush. So that looks a little bit better to me. That shape looks a little bit better to me. That looks better. Okay, so now I want to select that in inverse selection. So shift Apple key and I, that inverts it, or I think it's Control Shift I on a PC, or you can go to select and do inverse. Eraser, erase that part of the color down here, and then in the overpaint layer, erase that part in the overpaint. So now we have our new foot shape. Little smudge there. Smudge there. Smudge there. All right. So turn back on our selection, hide it, and let's get back our spata brush and continue. So zoom out just a little bit. So right now these feet look kind of flat. They should look like roundish logs coming out of his body. So we're gonna just ignore the feet for a second here and work on rounding this stuff out so it's not so stiff looking. And this should be like a sausage. Some of this in here, some of this in here. I don't often sing to myself in regular life, so I don't know why I'm doing it now. Alright, so we want some of this dark brownish here to kind of pop the leg out from the rest of the body because you can't see. Oh, save. I can't believe I've gone this time without saving. It is always important to save. Learn the save shortcut. Use it often. Saving is your friend. I want the darker blue. There we go. I do not like that blue at all. So we'll get rid of it. Alright, screw it. We'll get a darker brown. Nah, maybe a purple. That's nice. Tone that back a little bit. Sausage fight. More like a sausage. Some of that dark shadow to sneak in here, and some of that dark shadow to sneak in down here, which doesn't appear to be too dark when it goes down there, so we'll make it darker. Now we're getting something good. Damn, there's something good. kind of looks like it's bent, kinda, maybe. Maybe I need to round this out a little bit more down here and make it less of a harsh line. There's all sorts of fun wrinkles that you can do around this ankle section. That's fun. Alright, I'm gonna get rid of these lines because I don't like them. And do something like this. So you see that fold thing going on there. We'll work on that. Here we go. He's got fat legs. Okay, well, I think I'm closing in on the hour mark or 45-minute mark with this particular painting. There's a lot more that I want to do with this, as you can see. And I've barely touched anything else on this composition except for this guy. And there's a lot more to do, so I'm getting anxious. I don't know if I should just push on through and make this a extra long one or step away, because I don't want to overwork it. Let's see. Let's zoom out now. Zoom out. Let's zoom way the hell out. So you can kind of tell what's going on here. We need more contrast with the sock. That sock needs to be brighter. These legs are kind of getting swallowed up in that shadow, and this butt needs to be a little bit more shadowed down here. I don't mind the legs getting caught up in that shadow. I think that's kind of what it would look like if he's squatting over. The small arms aren't really doing it for me, but we're getting there. So hit save. And I want to try a few things just for the hell of it. I'm gonna create a new adjustment layer, and I am going to do curves. And this is one of those things that you can whoops, I think I have my selection still on, so deselect. There we go. So new adjustment layer. This is one of those things that I normally save to the end, but I just want to see what we're dealing with here. So let me scoot this guy over a little bit. And curves is one of those final adjustments that you can play with to get, like, to change the contrast, change the temperature of your portrait or your painting, pop out some details, that kind of thing. So in a minute here I'll hit OK. And adjustment layers are a nice way of doing these these adjustments without affecting your composition. So if I want to turn it off, I can turn it off. But if I want to turn it on, I got that. I kind of like what that does. Let me do another adjustment layer. We'll do levels here. And so increase that, decrease that, pop that up a little bit, bring it down, whatever. That one looks pretty cool too. If I zoom out, I'm getting there. From this little adjustment, I can see that I need to do a lot more work on the little guy. Bring up his face a lot more. Make this sock a little bit brighter. I wasn't too sure about the detail on the background, but now that I've done these adjustments, I kind of like it. I think I am going to go back and do some touch-ups and stuff, but I don't know, things are looking pretty good. So adjustment layers are nice to finish off your composition when you're done. I'm going to toss these away because I'm just going to keep going with what I'm doing. And that's the one thing that you can't do with traditional medium like painting, acrylics and oils. You can't use those adjustment layers to kind of cheat a little bit. And so that's one of the nice things about working digitally is you can infinitely tweak your piece so that you get exactly what you want or what you think you want. All right, so that's gonna do it for this segment. I am going to be away from a machine over the weekend, so I won't be able to finish this piece, unfortunately. I was hoping to get it done before the new year, but that's not going to happen. So I will see you guys and gals in the new year, and thank you for tuning in. And yeah, if you have any feedback on whether on whether or not you'd want to see step by step, or if you'd rather see like a quick time lapse of this, give me an email at azmnews@gmail.com, or you can visit the website monstercutie.com, and it'll redirect you to the blog, and my email's on there. So let me know if you like the way it's going or if you'd like a change. And thanks again for watching. Bye.